beings have in common is test and trial in this world, irrespective of whether we subscribe to Christianity or Judaism or atheism, irrespective of which method we follow in life, irrespective of which sect we identify by. We all live by this natural system, which is we're going to go through test and trial. And the severity of the test and trial is in accordance to the strength of one's faith and the level of religiosity. And this is proven to us through an authentic report from the Prophet ﷺ, where he said that a person is trialed according to the strength of his faith. And that's why those that were trialed in the most severe fashion were the Prophets ﷺ. And there's one report from a tabi'i who's from the earlier generations that succeeded the companions radiallahu anhum, Yunus ibn Ubayd rahimahullah. A man came to him and he approached Yunus, فَشَكَى إِلَيْهِ ضِيقًا مِنْ حَالِهِ وَمَعَاشِهِ. He said to Yunus that life is too difficult for me. Financial troubles have increased. Marital strains have intensified. And life as a whole has consumed me. This man is clearly reached the brim of sadness and devastation. So Yunus ibn Ubayd looked towards this man and he said to him, أَيَسُرُّكَ بِبَصَرِكَ مِئَةَ أَلْفٍ. That do you agree to exchange the sight that Allah has given you for something that's equal to maybe millions of pounds in our day and age? To which the man said, La, of course not. He said, فَبِسَمْعِكَ. Then what if I gave you the same amount for the hearing that Allah has bestowed upon you? He said, I still wouldn't agree. He said, فَبِلِسَانِكَ. Then what about the tongue that Allah has given you through which you enunciate the clearest of words? He said, I still wouldn't. He said, فَبِعَقْلِكَ. And what if I gave you the same money for your intellect? Bearing in mind this is a lot of wealth. Wealth that would sustain a man for the remainder of his life. He would not need to work or worry about any financial troubles. He said, I still wouldn't. وَذَكَّرَهُ نِعَمَ اللَّهِ عَلَيْهِ ثُمَّ قَالَ لَهُ أَرَى لَكَ مَئِينَ أُلُوفًا وَأَنْتَ تَشْكُو الْحَاجَةِ. He says, Yunus reminded him of all the blessings Allah had bestowed upon him in his time of difficulty, because he was blinded by devastation and sadness and self-pity. And then he said to him, I see that you are a man who possesses bounties, blessings and assets that are equal to millions and millions of pounds, and yet you complain. A very powerful report. And there are many lessons we can draw from it. The first is the recognition of a blessing. And quite often scholars refer to blessings as hidden blessings. Why is the term hidden blessing used? Anybody? Why do they use the term hidden blessing? Any thoughts? When speaking about blessings, why there are apparent blessings and hidden blessings? It's because as human beings, we tend to associate blessings with things that are materialistic and tangible. The first thing that comes to mind when we think of a blessing or a bounty that God has given us is a good car, a vast house, a lush land, branded clothing. Whenever we speak of blessing in our day and age, these are the things that come to mind. And here we're being taught that divine blessings, they transcend materialistic things. The greater blessings are the things that are abstract, the things that we can't touch and feel. The ability to love, the ability to believe in a superior being, the ability to feel happiness, the ability to see and hear, the ability to express our sentiments. These are blessings that are often overshadowed. And within this report, we're reminded that there are greater blessings than cars and assets and buildings and clothing. These are all materialistic things. The more a person possesses of them, the more he yearns for more. So we're driven towards thinking about hidden blessings. Blessings that the average person doesn't have the capacity to identify. because he hasn't reached that threshold of shukr, thankfulness. And we know the people of the past, they would thank Allah for the things that don't even come to our mind. The air they inhale, they would thank Allah for the ability to inhale and exhale. When they'd walk, they'd thank Allah for functional legs and arms. They would thank Allah for having children, knowing other people struggle to conceive. So the first lesson we learn is the importance of recognizing blessings. Allah takes from one person and gives to another. And He takes from that person and gives to another person. This person doesn't have children. This person has children, but they've been misguided. Nobody lives a perfect life. But we're so drowned in self-pity, we can't recognize these hidden blessings. So we should all make a concentrated effort to look beyond the apparent and look for the blessings that aren't easily noticeable. And that's something we're always encouraged to do. And that's what the Prophet ﷺ said, "Unzuru ila man huwa asfala minkum." Look at those who have less than you in this world. It's not an easy thing to do. But for the one who reaches a reasonable level of shukr, he's able to do that. The second thing we learn is a shift of mindset. And that's continuing from the previous point, which is whenever we go through difficulty, as a believing person who believes in divine decree and divine stipulation, we have to remind ourselves that what Allah has decided for us is way better than anything we could decide for ourselves. One of the Salaf was asked a question: if you could go back in time and change every wrong thing that happened in your life, would you do it? Just think about this question for a second. Think of your most traumatic experiences. Think of the most catastrophic event that's occurred in your life that causes you pain till today when you reflect upon it. Here, if it was allowed for you to change that event and remove it from your memory and your life, would you do it? And this person, he thought for a second and he responded, no. They said, why? He said, because how dare I think I can plan for myself better than Allah has planned for me. My decision making is not better than Allah's decision making. If He's ordained something for me, then there's wisdom within that thing that I can't spot at this moment in time. But how dare I think that my decision-making skills are superior than the Creator of the heavens and the earth. I would never change anything that Allah has written for me. For I'm content with that thing, whether it's good or bad. Because ultimately, Allah wouldn't wish something bad upon us. There's always goodness within that thing, but we fail to identify that goodness. And that's why the people of the past, they would always search for these hidden blessings within their most difficult and darkest times. When finances become strained, when marital problems increase, when life as a whole becomes gloomy and dark and there's no sense of direction, it's in those moments where the human being isn't able to speak, but his iman has the ability to speak. It's the iman that speaks 1,000 words in those difficult times. Because that iman prevents the person from showing any dissatisfaction with Allah's divine decree. And that's what we're taught through this report. And the next lesson that we learn is the importance of shukr as a whole. What is the concept of shukr? The concept of shukr is when a person reaches a stage where he understands he's indebted to Allah Azza wa Jal. There's a famous quote it's been ascribed to different people, but it's a quote that's been narrated in many books of history. That a man was once asked that, أَشَكَرْتَ اللَّهَ حَقَّ شُكْرِهِ? That have you thanked Allah the way He deserves to be thanked? And this man was righteous and noble. He gained leadership among his people. And he responded, I tried to thank Allah the way He deserved to be thanked. But every time I thanked Him, I realized that the ability to thank Him was a blessing that warranted an additional thanks. So no matter how much we thank Allah, we can never fulfill His rights completely. We're indebted to Him. We can never thank Him for the fact that He created us. Because the moment we thank Him for our creation, we owe Him another thankfulness for the ability to thank Him for that thing, subhanAllah. And that's a never-ending chain of shukr. And when a slave realizes this, He understands everything I do, I owe it to Allah Azza wa Jal. He's not in need of me, I'm in need of Him. And the counting of blessings, it stops. Because no matter how many things I do quote unquote for Allah and for this religion, it can never amount to a fraction of what Allah has done for me. And it's this mindset that we talk to embody. And that's a spiritual concept of shukr that we push towards embracing completely. And that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in the Quran, وَقَلِيلٌ مِّنْ عِبَادِيَ الشَّكُورِ, that only a handful of my slaves are thankful. And some of the scholars mention that there are different words used in the Quran to describe the thankful person. We have the word shakir and we have the word shakur. And today, Shaykh Muhammad recited verses from Surah Al-Insan, within which the word shakir was used, a thankful person. The first few verses of Al-Insan. وَإِنَّا هَدَيْنَاهُ السَّبِيلَ إِمَّا شَاكِرًا وَإِمَّا كَفُورًا. The word, we've guided human being to the correct path, whether he's thankful or ungrateful. And then in the verse I quoted earlier, وَقَلِيلٌ مِّنْ عِبَادِيَ الشَّكُورِ. They both refer to a single person. And they're both symbolic of thankfulness. But what's the difference? The grammarians mention a shakir is the one who thanks Allah for the blessings that he has. His food, his wife, his children, his house, his functional limbs. And the shakur is the one who thanks Allah for the things he doesn't have. Allahu Akbar. He thanks Allah for things that Allah chose not to give him, because he thinks so well of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah didn't give me a child. Allah didn't give me herds of wealth. Allah didn't give me X, Y, and Z, but I'm happy. Because I trust nobody more than Him subhanahu. And through His never-ending love and mercy and care, He decided for a wisdom that I can't see at this moment in time, not to give me that thing. And that's the meaning of shukur. And that's why the shukur among us are very few. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us of them, and to give us the ability to act upon our knowledge, and to make us of people who embody spiritual concepts of thankfulness in the month of Ramadan. وأقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم وأتوب إليه.